Earlier this week, 6 attorneys general from 6 different states, the top law enforcement officer in each state, sent a letter to the NFL. The New York Times obtained a copy of it. The 6 states are New York, Illinois, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Oregon, and Washington. I still don't know why Oregon's involved because the NFL doesn't do business there. But hey, the more the merrier when you're trying to send a message.
Well,
and this is a strong message regarding issues of workplace harassment, specifically of women and minorities. And it's not just the stuff that we know about, the Washington Commanders controversy, the more recent Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders voyeurism scandal. There are specific incidents mentioned in this letter that were reported on by the Times back in February regarding things in the workplace that have caused concern for female employees and for minorities. And it's time, according to these folks, for the NFL to do something, or they are going to investigate. And this is different from Congress. The Attorney General of any state has broad powers to investigate, to take actions, to prosecute, to really create problems publicly for any company, especially a huge company like the NFL. And when an individual employee sues the NFL, what happens? They take it into private arbitration. We never hear about it. Something like this, if there would ever be some sort of a full investigation and prosecution of the NFL, maybe in New York State where it has its headquarters, that would all be subject to public viewing, understanding, scrutiny, accountability. This is something that has to have the NFL very concerned, Chris, and you could argue it's overdue because, I've been talking to people for years about all it takes is one ambitious prosecutor to notice something that's going on with the NFL. And usually what happens, and this is kind of a loose understanding of how you get to the bottom of a situation and identify crimes that have been committed. But if you have a visceral sense that there's something wrong about this, you hear a set of facts, and you say there's something wrong about that, chances are you're going to find a statute somewhere that was violated as the person who did whatever they did was doing whatever they were doing, if that makes any sense whatsoever. That somewhere in there, you will discover that a law was broken. And prosecutors have so much discretion and so much power. I am surprised. It hasn't happened before now that prosecutors would say, hey, NFL, it's time to have a real accounting for the way that you've conducted yourself in certain situations. And it's more than Congress that you need to worry about. You need to worry about prosecutors taking action against things that may be violating the law.
No question. I mean, it's a hot button topic right now. It is. And yes, the NFL is kind of, under the microscope a little bit for how they're running their business and what they're doing here. I mean, I guess the first thing I want to say, Mike, is they send a warning doing this. What's common play or common practice with this kind of, we've sent a warning, right? That's what does that mean? Does that mean that usually mean that when you get a warning like this, that a month later action starts to happen here and they do investigate? Or is it just like a shot across the bow just to be like, hey, you better tighten up or we're going to get serious about this? That's, I guess, what I'm kind of wondering about the whole thing. Or what's the common practice after this kind of happens? Do you know that at all?
I think it's fair to call it a shot across the bow with a threat for more direct shots to come.
Yeah.
And a desire to engage in a conversation about what the NFL is doing to make this better, while these prosecutors also establish and maintain relationships directly with people in the building, in the league office, with the teams, understanding, are things getting any better? And this all flows from the New York Times report in February, where 30 former league employees alleged they were subjected to several inappropriate actions. And here's just a flavor of what they claimed. Female employees said they were subjected to repeated viewings of the Ray Rice video when he knocked out his then-fiancée, Janae Palmer, in an elevator in 2014. I don't know why any employees would be required to view that, male or female, but that's troubling. And there was also commentary by coworkers that the victim had brought the violence on herself. That makes it even worse, obviously. Women reported that in training intended to improve sensitivity on the issue, they were asked to raise their hands to self-identify if they had been victims of domestic violence or knew someone who had. I mean, that just screams out as something you shouldn't be doing in a workplace, putting someone in that position where they have to say, hey, yes, I have been the victim of domestic violence. That's just an example of of what kind of behavior that hasn't crystallized into a full-blown controversy that we know about that is driving this interest by the 6 attorneys general to see that the NFL is changing its ways. So we'll see what happens. But I suspect there'll be a response by the NFL,
right.
And then I assume that the attorneys general will expect something more by way of engagement, by way of a plan that is introduced. It's a part of the Brian Flores lawsuit. The Brian Flores lawsuit has specific things that he wants to see the NFL do, and I think that's exactly what the attorneys general will want at some point. What are you doing to make things better? Don't just come out and hold a press conference and say we're going to make things better. What are you doing to make things better? And are you actually doing it? Or is this just another situation where you say, oh, Dan Snyder still isn't in charge of his team, when there's a report the next day that refutes that, and you just ignore that report? And how does anybody know what the truth really is? They want concrete steps toward making things better, and they want to be sure that they're done genuinely and willingly, with an idea of making things better than they've been.
Yeah, well, the NFL, as popular as it is, it needs to be better. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We've obviously found some areas where you go, wait, they're flawed, or they're not as buttoned up as we thought they were in this department, and it needs to improve. So no question about that. Now, 2 things I want to say. One, when we are hearing some of these things from the female employees, they're talking about in football facilities, right? We're not talking 345 Park Avenue, right? I'm led to believe that, or maybe it's just all of it. Maybe it's just in general. I don't know. That was one thing.
I need to go back and revisit the letter, because when I wrote the story yesterday, they had not posted the letter yet. So I need to take a closer look at it. I think that, when I see league employees, I assume that means league office employees, but we'll see. But we clearly know there have been issues in Washington.
Right.
We know about that. And there presumably are issues with other teams, because that's one of the reasons why they're protecting Dan Snyder. These other owners don't want to have the same standard applied to them potentially in the future if they have any dirty laundry that previously has gone unnoticed. So I think it's a combination of any and all teams and the league office. It's a culture that potentially permeates the sport. The argument would be the Commanders aren't the outlier. They're just the ones who were stupid enough to get caught. And maybe in other organizations, there are similar attitudes and behaviors. We've talked before about how the locker room at times is trapped in the 1950s. It could be that the front office of multiple teams is caught in a bygone era as well.
I would bet you there's more front offices in the 1950s than locker rooms. That's for sure. The players have been around different cultures and environments and things like that. A lot of the front office guys have not. So I would think there's some more, old school, out to date thinking in the front offices of these buildings than there is in the locker room. All right. So I would say that for sure. Now, Mike, the other thing I want to say to you is do you think this gets handed down, or did somebody from Congress tell these attorney generals to do this? Do you think this is a conversation of connecting, or do you think the attorney generals kind of just, they did this on their own? To me, I have a hard time thinking that somebody in D.C. didn't put this on these guys' radar, or these people's radar, and get them to start down this road with this letter and some of these issues that we're seeing here.
I think that the issues are so out in the open that you really don't need any type of coordination between Congress and these are state officials. These aren't federal officials.
Right.
This is the highest prosecutor in 6 different states. Now, I would suspect that Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, is the one who's leading this because that's where the league office is.
Yeah.
And she has proven to be extremely effective when it comes to addressing wrongdoing in these bigger organizations that typically are only policed by civil litigation. That's one of the reasons why civil litigation can be so effective. You have private attorneys general. You have people who are taking up the fight one victim at a time. But when you get the public attorney general involved, and that person is chasing a company that has a culture that is premised upon activities and mindsets that violate modern norms and laws, that's when you have a real problem. So I think the NFL's got a real problem.
Yeah, seems like
it's just been
too much.
One thing after another. And again, anyone out there who will ask me from time to time, why do you hate the thing from which you earn your living? The people in charge of the thing from which I earn a living need to be held accountable if they are doing things that they should not be doing. If you love the NFL, you want the NFL and its teams to all be run by people who are of goodwill, who will follow the law, who will treat people the right way, and who will do honor to the shield. We hear all the time about how players must not undermine the shield. Well, it's not just the players who are undermining the shield. And if it's somebody in the league office, if it's somebody in the front office of one of the teams, if it's people who are doing things that they should not be doing in the workplace that are causing distress and pain, financial loss, emotional problems for the individuals who show up there every day, that needs to be called out, and that needs to be fixed. And that, if you're willing to stand up and say something's wrong with the way the NFL operates, it doesn't mean you hate the NFL. It means you love the NFL enough to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm that's why I'm here too. I know. It's not here to just be a jerk sometimes and do that. It's because of genuine love of the game, and we want it to be better. I'm with you all the way. Also, Chris Sims has a question that's not as serious here. It's on the topic, but not really to do with the topic. It's attorneys general. It's not attorney generals. It just doesn't sound right. I don't know.
I know it doesn't.
It does not. Attorneys general, right? That doesn't make sense.
That's the plural.
I know.
That's the plural.
What? Damn. I will be stupid forever because I'll never get that one right. I can tell you that.
Well, in any shape, way, or form, I don't disagree.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.